Welcome to the third Sound Museum Roundtable. My name is Mark Streit. I'm the head of arts and creative industries at Swissnex in Boston and New York. Swissnex is the Swiss Science Consulate connecting Switzerland and the world in education, research, innovation, and the arts. Thank you so much to our colleagues at Swissnex San Francisco, Lucas Hagin and Elodie Malonga, for co-hosting and putting together this event. And certainly to Jason Reiner, the sound artist and visionary whose imagination and persistence brought the Sound Museum Roundtable from idea to reality. Our first session asked why listening matters. In our second session, we explored how environments support that. And today, we're interested in what sort of architectural home a sound museum could look like. A quick note on timing, we're running for about 2 hours. The first hour is a roundtable conversation followed by a live performance and listening session broadcast from Audium in San Francisco, a space whose architecture is built entirely around sound. Thank you to David Schuff for introducing us to Audium and to Barbara Nerness for performing live from within the space. And certainly thanks to our speakers, Sarah Kenderdine, Bevin Savage Yamazaki, and Barbara Nerness. And now, over to our moderator, Joseph Becker, Curator of Architecture and Design at SFMOMA. Thank you so much, Joseph. And thanks everyone for joining. And if you are around New York City and have the opportunity to visit Joseph's exhibition, The Art of Noise at Cooper Hewitt, which is on through August 16, please go ahead and do so. Thank you all, and let's begin.
Thanks so much, Mark. And thanks everybody at Swissnex for hosting this. As Mark said, this is sound panel number 3, the Sonostalgia Roundtable, which has been a wonderful journey through many different voices and ideas around sound and the presentation of sound and sound as community. And so today we've got 3 wonderful speakers plus our friends at Audium to take us through a number of different ideas and introduce their own work, and then to capitalize on this forum for another experiment in bringing the physical space of a listening environment into our computer screens. So we'll see how that goes. So just the run of the show today, we're gonna hear from Sarah and from Bevin and from Barbara about their individual practices. Then we'll have an opportunity for conversation and some opportunity for question and answer before we shift over to Audium with David and Jason and Barbara for performance and a little bit of background on this incredible space in San Francisco. But we're spanning the globe from Switzerland to New York to San Francisco. And just by way of introduction, I am Curator of Architecture and Design at SFMOMA. And as Mark mentioned, I have an exhibition on view right now in New York called Art of Noise, which has focused on design as an apparatus for bringing us together around music. It's the visual artifacts that help us kind of put a structure around the memories affiliated with listening to and sharing music in general. So that's with graphic design and product design, the objects like radios and stereos that we've used over the past 100 plus years to listen to music. So this has spawned into a number of different conversations, and I'm grateful to Lucas and to Jason and to Mark for bringing me in to help shepherd further conversations. So I'd like to kick it off by asking Sarah to talk a little bit about her work. Sarah is the director of the Laboratory for Experimental Museology at the EPFL in Lausanne, and she's also the curator at large for the EPFL pavilions, where she's been an incredible researcher and developed many different aspects of listening and community and computation. So we're going to hear a bit from Sarah first. So take us away, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Wonderful. So I'm just going to share a few experiments that we are doing in the museological domain. And my work is within a research framework that's designed to empower cultural organizations to connect diverse forms of culture and materiality, ranging from objects and knowledge systems to modes of representation and participation through immersive interfaces. And it's the sonic richness of these digital information infrastructures that are the subject of my WE presentation today. So a very potted history, micro history for 25 years. I've been designing and building large-scale immersive systems inside public museums for mass engagement with cultural heritage. I then started to work with universities to help sustain this kind of research at the forefront of both computer graphics and also audio systems. I co-established the Applied Laboratory for Interactive Visualization and Embodiment at the Science Park in Hong Kong with 8 large-scale systems, returned to Australia to build the Expanded Perception and Interaction Centre at UNSW. So just so you know what you're looking at here on the right-hand side of your image, a small 7-meter diameter visualization environment comprised of 56 projectors, a 29 computer cluster, 33 channels of audio. So it's 120 million pixels in 3D, and it's at the edge of human visual acuity and designed to solve visualization problems for complexity and big data in the humanities and the sciences using sonification and visualization as a means of discovery. So in Switzerland, we've built 12 large-scale systems that offer us strategies for multi-sensory engagement, emphasizing human-to-human as well as human-to-machine interaction. And they give us powerful ways to reformulate narrative in a digital context. Immersive experiences are synonymous with many sensorial attributes, not only vision, but of course, acoustic, kinesthetic, somatic, and olfactory characteristics. Immersion is capable of producing a sensation of presence, that is, the sensation of being there in mediated environments. And it's these qualities of immersion that are based on, well, the reason we can have those qualities of immersion are because of the multimodal nature of human perception. So since about 2000, I've been heavily invested in ambisonic sound field recordings for many of the cultural projects we undertake worldwide. Sonic verisimilitude, defined as the precise correspondence between acoustic and visual space, has long proven the effectiveness of spatial audio in these virtual environments. Subsequent research has demonstrated that presence really emerges from sensory fidelity, not only from the auditory sensory fidelity, but its coherence across multiple modalities. So that means the visual world as well. Place Humpy was an artwork that was commissioned for France India year in 2006, so it's very old now, 20 years old. It subsequently toured all over the world. We undertook first order ambisonic recordings for this work all over the 25 square meter site. We conjoined these with stereographic panoramas taken using this rare Swiss stereoscopic film camera, left and right eye, and created these navigable landscapes combining ambisonic playback with musical recordings by Dr. L. Subramaniam, the Carnatic violin superstar. The works or the studies on this work, which has toured all over the world and is central to a permanent museum in India, demonstrates that audiovisual coherence rather than technical complexity or ambisonic order alone informs perceptual realism and audience engagement. And as my colleague, audio engineer Paul Dornbusch writes, sonic verisimilitude functions for us not only as a technical criteria, but also as a design ethic and an epistemology of presence, linking sound, place, and cultural meaning across a changing technological backdrop. Sonic emergence takes place in immersive environments where spatialized sound evolves through audience movement, creating a constantly changing collective sonic experience. So Embody is a new work, a multi-user immersive dance work staged inside a 360-degree stereoscopic LED cinema using motion capture from Sir Wayne McGregor's On the Other Earth. It reimagines dancers as dynamic digital beings across 8 responsive visual and sonic worlds. So up to 16 visitors enter the cylinder at once, 8 interactors, 8 spectators, and in real time, the collective behavior and spatial location influence the algorithmic sound virtual dances and create a kind of generative performance. Sonic Remix, building on EPFL's seminal Montreux Jazz digitization project, Jazz Luminaries is based on constellation of jazz greats from this archive. The installation cuts, remixes, and replays 5,400 artists and 13,000 videos from a total archive of 11,000 hours of video, which is a UNESCO Memory of the World archive. So the neural net-like image that you see here is based on the social network of the artist. Each node is an artist. The link strength is defined by the number of times one artist played with another artist. So it's B.B. King that lies at the very center of that dense network. Visitors lie under the dome. They have a spherical ball in their hands. They're able to navigate this constellation, emulating the hemisphere in which the work is staged. And the search paradigm here is akin to tuning a radio. It's searching by listening, and it circumvents a lack of public knowledge into who great jazz performers really are. So it's hearing what you like that drives the design to unfold in 3 layers. It's samples of all the artists, it's all the songs by one performer, and then it's the full song by that performer. Very 1970s retro graphics there. So in this work, just to finish the Terapixel Panorama project, we developed an adaptive scale responsive soundscape combining localized Foley effects with a dynamic ambient sound bed. This project is focused on a Swiss national icon, the painted panorama representing the Swiss Battle of Confederation of 1476. Our project both digitizes, restages, and augments this historic image. So our panorama was commissioned by Swiss businessmen. It was shown in Geneva and Zurich for 7 years. It was abandoned, rediscovered, conserved. It took 6 years to do that. It was re-erected in a panorama frame. It was floated on the Lake of Merton in a box built by Jean Nouvel for the Swiss National Expo in 2002, and then it was returned to relative obscurity. So it's only been on display for 6 months in the last 120 years. So we rescued it from this military storage facility where it's been languishing for the last 20 years. 3 rolls like this, 1,000 square meter canvas, each roll is 10 meters high. and they weigh about a ton each. So we built a fully motorized, mechanically accurate imaging rig that could travel the vertical height of each roll. We used a 150 megapixel camera, stitched together 27,000 images to create a 1.6 trillion pixel image at 1,000 dpi. It turns out this is the largest digital image in the world, but we stage it in our 360-degree system with a similar aspect ratio to the original Rotunda, but at 1/3 the scale, fully interactive and augmented with 33 channels of sound. And the super fine resolution allows participants to zoom into more than the naked eye can see, deeply engaged in the materiality of the painting. So you can see here a custom designed smell necklace that releases 12 synthetic scents into the air. And as visitors enter the scene of this repugnant battle, they're enveloped in a powerful olfactory experience: blood, sweat, goat, horse manure, and more. So we developed a real-time system for this. It's a world first. This is the smell map for a dynamic assignment of the odors inside this interactive system. And then similarly, we have the multi-layered dynamic soundscape with numerous Foley sounds for a fully interactive sonic environment that combines this enormous zoom factor with auditory realism, no matter where you look. These Foley sounds were added also to all of the augmentations, including a series of volumetric video sequences and reenactments of performers. Here, the firing of an abacus, the Gaussian splat output of that video sequence, and then this becomes an publicly accessible, ontologically intense augmentation. So to paraphrase the theorists Blesser and Salter, hearing and listening are means by which we sense the events of life, orally visualize spatial geometries, propagate cultural symbols, stimulate emotions, experience the movement of time, build social relations, and retain a memory of experiences. Thank you very much.
Incredible, Sarah. Thank you so much for walking us through some of these projects. I know that must have felt like a very truncated presentation on a long journey. Some of these projects just have kind of mind-boggling metrics associated with them. I want to move over and give the stage to Bevin Savage Yamazaki, who is joining us from New York and leads Gensler's Culture and Museums practice, where she focuses on visitor experience and on the creation of community through these sites of culture, and is currently working on a very exciting project in New York called the Hip Hop Museum. So, Bevin, if you could give us a few minutes of your time and tell us what it is that you do and what you're working on.
Great. Thank you so much. So I do lead Gensler's culture and museums practice, and I would say 25 plus years in, I still spend most of my time asking what space really owes the people who move through it. Long before I had a design philosophy, I had a memory, a small museum, a feeling that I really couldn't give a name to yet. And that's really where it started with me in my childhood town of Limerick in Ireland. Not with the form, but with a feeling that museums could really open up a window into a world far bigger than my small Atlantic island. So when I design, I kind of talk about my philosophy being sort of inside out design. It's really about building outward from meaning and not inward from shape. So community, memory, and feeling really lead. They are sort of this idea of form following feeling. It's slower. It's also the only way I know how to make sure that a building will tell the truth. And that philosophy has really manifested itself through different projects over the years. Starting with the Ford Foundation, it was really about rethinking the paradigm of philanthropic experience. With the New York Public Library, figuring out how to store and care for rare books then moved them from deep below Bryant Park up to the Rose Reading Room in under 5 minutes. For the Alamo, it has really been about a conversation about how we renegotiate its relationship with the public that owns it. And then a concept design for the Natural History Museum in Abu Dhabi that was all about stewarding local ecology and sharing it with their community. With the Dene Cultural Center, which has been designed for the Navajo Nation, it was really about how do we create a space to bring back their culture and reignite their language between the elders and their younger generation. So all different buildings, but sort of the same question every time. What does this place owe the people that are going to stand in it? Way earlier on, working at Dia Beacon, I had the pleasure of spending a lot of time with Michael Govan and an extraordinary team, and it really did change my understanding of design. Working with Michael Heiser to carve up the gallery to create negative space, with Sarah to alter my sense of light and transition, and then over to the new museum, working with Chris Burton and Karsten Haller, using the architecture as a canvas. My time then with Bisho Kanchi and Dennis Oppenheim, artists who treated space itself as the material. And then with James Turrell, turning light into something that you walk through like an ancient constellation, right? That usual feeling of ferocity and how you move through space and context and scale. The architecture usually decides how a body moves through space, but these artists taught me that space was really something that can decide for you. That kind of crossover, art reshaping how we see, how we feel, is really where I actually learned how to design. But I want to go in a little bit deeper into just one project, because this is the one that really taught me most about sound. We didn't really get to design this one from a blank slate. This museum sits inside and beneath a multifamily affordable housing development up in the Bronx, where domestic life unfolds directly above the galleries every day. And that reality really changed everything about how we approached the architecture. We inherited a building, right? Column grids, ceiling heights, mechanical cores that we couldn't move. You know, we were embedding essentially a global cultural institution within a building that was first and foremost a home. So instead of fighting what we inherited, we started to hear it and sort of see it as a rhythm, right? Hip hop samples what exists, it transforms. And so we did the same. Moments of compression and release began to shape the visitor journey. This idea of circulation becoming choreography and constraint becoming a creative catalyst. There's something really, I think, deeply humbling and poetic actually about giving hip hop a permanent home within affordable housing. It sort of reaffirms a truth that has always been present in the culture, that it did not emerge from elite institutions or carefully curated stages. It was really born in the neighborhoods, right, in the community rooms. It was born out of the neighborhood block party. It grew from constraints, from communities transforming it into something much more powerful, expressive, and most importantly, entirely their own. So then this idea of the proximity of domesticity, right? Bass performance, movement, all happening directly below someone's bedroom. You know, how do you negotiate that? What is that conversation? So the pragmatics of architecture shot into the forefront, right in front of our face. Acoustic isolation became one of our most important tools, you know, not to quiet the culture, but to let it live loudly in one place without disrupting a life happening in another. And so with that, you know, the building carries two identities at once, this idea of the neighborhood infrastructure, global cultural destination, and it had to be both. And we really had to be able to kind of negotiate that palette, right? That sort of, you know, deep, bright colors that sort of evoked, you know, Black excellence and power, again, acknowledging the sort of the gritty aspects of the street. So I think what was most important to us about this project is that we were able to kind of create a homecoming, right? That this culture really remains rooted where it began and finally has the permanence that it deserves. And that was really the outcome I think I personally most cared about most. It was not a monument. It was really this homecoming, right? Between an institutional permanence and the constant evolution of hip hop as a culture, sort of embedding the museum within affordable housing may have been the most authentic architectural gesture that we could really make. So to wrap it up, my work comes down to probably four kind of key things: curiosity, experience, community, place. Sound touches all of those. And I'm excited to talk more with you all today about how architecture can create a form and an environment that can really begin to a wonderful backdrop for noise to become the star. Thank you.
Thank you, Bevin. This is super exciting. When's the planned opening for the Hip Hop Museum?
So next year, let's
Great. We will all be there.
let's say next year. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. I next want to introduce Barbara Nerness, who's joining us from San Francisco, currently seated in Audium, and we'll hear a little bit about where you are a little later. But just to introduce you as an electronic music composer, as a professor, as an artist and a scientist who works between music and live performance, and interaction design, and biosignals. Barbara has her PhD from Stanford and has taught at CCRMA, the Center for Computer Research and Music and Acoustics, where we were situated in our second roundtable, our last roundtable. So, Barbara, if you don't mind telling us a little bit about your work.
Yeah, thank you so much to everyone for having me. It's really exciting to be part of this discussion. Like Joseph mentioned, I've both been very curious about how I create as an artist and especially make music, studying kind of the brain and body, and what happens when we're in creative, engaging creatively. And then I also love to perform and work both in sound and video, although I'll be talking mostly about sound. So real briefly, I'll give you a couple ways that I've experimented with sound. First, just to mention that my dissertation that I finished last year was about the brain dynamics during music improvisation. So really looking at attention and engagement among players, and comparing when they're playing something from memory versus improvising to kind of understand those mechanisms. But artistically, I have also just loved to experiment with sound in sort of unlikely spaces. And in 2019, curated an exhibition at the Anderson Collection in Stanford's Modern Art Gallery, where we had installations of sound works paired with art pieces, and these filled the gallery with sound overlapping. And then we also had a performance section where the audience was taken throughout the museum to different portions with both sound and video. And on the lower left here, we had an 8-channel speaker system on the floor where Fernando was performing in the middle, and no Rothkos were harmed in the making of this event, but I was very nervous. So I've also had the chance to go to the Tank Center, an amazing water tank that's been converted to a venue and recording studio in Colorado that has a 16-second reverb that sounds amazing. So there's a recording of a piece I've made there. And on the other side of things, in school at CCRMA, I learned how to work with multi-channel spaces that are built for sound, using both acoustic and electronic instruments. And something that Sarah mentioned was this ambisonics method of working with multi-channel sound that allows you to encode, say, a piece that I make for the CCRMA stage and be able to take it to Germany and perform it back on the ZKM Cubis. And This is one approach to sound spaces where, if you'll notice, the speakers are pretty equally spaced apart and they're pretty similar in order to cover the area very faithfully and provide this really vivid perceptual image of the immersive sound. But there's other methods and that have been explored that are more about site-specific and loudspeaker orchestras. One example here is the Phillips Pavilion, where hundreds of speakers were lining the walls, and there was a very custom design, as well as the Acousmonium in Paris, where, if you'll notice, all these speakers are super unique and very different cast of characters. And this kind of site-specific approach is what I understand and used at Audium. And Dave, the director, will give you much more in-depth history in a bit. But this is how I approached working in this space, where I got to create a piece in the last few months. And it means that I can't really take this performance that I've created here and just bring it to another space very easily. It won't sound the same. So this is a very unique kind of system. And if you'll notice, there's lots of very different speakers in the middle here. There's this sort of R2D2 that has like 20, 30 speakers in it facing outward, and then a bunch of little ones hanging above you. So you're really surrounded. There's also speakers on the floor. And in April and May of this year, I had the chance to compose a piece for this space. It was called Biometrics, as a play on all the biometric data and signals coming from our bodies, as well as I wanted people to think about the surveillance side of things and how this data is being recorded, not always with our consent. And the main instrument that I perform with is a stethoscope microphone that I can use to amplify my body sounds, as well as capture my heart rate live, which you'll get to hear later. And I can also tap on it and get more percussive sounds. And I like to use the heartbeat a lot because it is something that when we're all in the room, our heartbeats are synchronizing a bit. When we're listening to similar music, our subtle subconscious behavioral cues are all sort of aligning, and I like to sort of heighten that presence and awareness. So I've also used it as a method of just kind of connecting with myself as well. How I put sounds in this space, this is one way that I thought about it, is I have these feedback delay networks where you can send a sound into any of these little nodes and it gets delayed and bounced around. And in Audium, I had some of these stationary around you, and some of them were slowly rotating. And so I like to kind of present a soundscape, realistic recording, say, of the ocean, and then slowly blur your perception of that to kind of create a more surreal and kind of take you out of into a new space. So at the Audium, there is a lobby and entry area where the audience waits before the show. And so I'll just briefly give you a sense of the installations, and that will be it. So the first installation that you'll see, you wear a heartbeat sensor and the TVs are pulsing with your heart rate, and everyone is hearing it in the room. And the other sensor is a sweat sensor that is driving the synthesizer that you're hearing. And then there is a webcam here that is being put projected on two big screens, and then your eyes are being tracked and placed on the little TVs. So you're basically watching yourself as you are wearing this sensor. And it was funny because a lot of people didn't even realize that they were being projected on the wall behind them, and later realized that their face was and eyes were quite big. So it had an uncanny sense that I like to play with for the audience. And I will play an excerpt from the live performance later, but I think I will just leave it there. So thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Barbara. We're going to hear from David in a few minutes to tell us a little bit about Audium, but I just wanted to kind of synthesize a little bit of the three of your practices together first, and before we kind of move into Audium in real time. And there's something that I've been really struck by as this thing that joins the three of you, which is that there is this blend between being a creative actor as an artist or as an architect or as an interactive designer and being a facilitator and really thinking about who it is and prioritizing who it is that is coming through the spaces that you're developing. And all of these things deal with these multimodal, multi-sensory explorations. If it's sight and sound and touch and, and smell. Sarah, in your case, that idea of smell is insane. Would love to experience that. So I just want to kind of tap in to see how each of you are really feeling like where is the limit of your creative enterprise and where do you let go for the interactor to then take up the mantle.
So what's absolutely central to the things that I'm building is, and it's out of a vast array of different materials going from site environments, archaeology, world heritage, through archives, right up into contemporary performance, dancers, theater directors, musicians, and so on. But what's crucial about the work, and all of these works are participatory by the audience, it has a strong agency. Sometimes that's single user, multi-spectator, sometimes that's multi-user. And the more we can create multi-user participatory works that are emergent, this is really the future of cinema, we would say. And so that for me is the most critical factor. The rest is, it's design, content, huge labor in content. And also for me, because of my emphasis often in cultural heritage, it's a lot to do with respecting data sovereignties, understanding the reuse of materials, the frameworks around reuse, how far you can go in a creative remix, let's say, the use of archival sound materials. I work a lot with sound field recordings from like the 30s through to about the 70s, and how vital those sources are for us. I mean, it's such an abundant world that we live in. It's really quite extraordinary. But bringing all of that together and giving visitors or audiences or participants, however you want to describe them, the agency to make a new work every time. That's what I'm interested in.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's a helpful term. Certainly thinking about what can a visitor do and how empowered do they feel.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, this is a major challenge to, we could say, curatorial authority. I've always said that the biggest challenge to curatorial authority is on the floor of the museum gallery.
Mhm.
They don't
Yeah.
really care what happens on the internet, but what happens on the gallery floor is really critical. and very, very powerful because it's physical social space. And museums are defined by this social space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we build the apparatus that can bring them together in a co-exploration of whatever it is. Yeah.
I want to hear more about this idea of challenging the kind of curatorial authority, but I want Bevin and Barbara to chime in on this intersection between creativity and facilitating.
Yeah, I think this is such a fascinating idea, especially when it comes to architecture, which, is often meant to be quiet to a certain extent, not necessarily absent from the conversation, but should recede, especially in a museum setting, right, where it becomes a little more, especially in the interiors, to do the quiet work to support, right, the canvas, the space that sort of sets up the sort of the start of the show, the experience that you're having, the art that you're looking at, the people that you're meeting, that social experience, the dialogue that you're having, or that sort of moment of respite, right, where you get to be quiet. But I think architecture can play all the roles, right? It can be loud, it can be slightly invasive in terms of how our entry experience starts to happen. But I think where it does best is when it invites you to talk, to be quiet, to move, to flow, to sort of have its own sort of internal narrative score, right? As you move through the space, that does all of the things, right? It gets you to sit, it gets you to stand, it gets you to walk around corners, it drives you to an outside space. It invites you to connect with natural light. It brings you into a dark space. And it's that sort of movement, I think, where architecture best invites the facilitator, the visitor, the audience, where it can be a guide that can sometimes be a bit more bossy and loud, or it can sort of hold your hands and gently kind of pull you through the space. So it has a little bit more of a navigating opportunity, and I think depending on the experience that you're having, um, it can play different roles. But that in itself is also complex, right? Because that sort of implies a level of flexibility, and flexibility costs money. Flexibility often doesn't get used, right? You build in a lot of these movable walls and other things that can do all of these things, and then quite often they sort of stay stagnant in place, because people don't really understand that opportunity to sort of shift that spatial experience outside of the art piece or the work that's happening inside the space. So I think the museum experience to me is a complex and an interesting one architecturally, because we are not artists. I don't think architects are artists. We are pragmatists that are storytellers that have the opportunity to bring beautiful, delightful experiences into the world. But they are working within a brief. They are working within a very strict amount of money, within code, within all of the things that create the structure for what we do, which is the joy and the interesting thing about architecture. But it plays a slightly different role, I think, in facilitator and visitor.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm also very excited about working more with giving agency over to the audience, and like Sarah was saying, it's and there's kind of this social and multi-agent kind of environment that you can build when people are given control over what's happening, and also when they sort of slowly understand how that it's actually working. So it's kind of the scientist and the educator in me that sort of wants to create experiences where people learn about themselves and about each other, and that then I've also found that these really invite people in, like Bevin is saying, and when they're playful. So I've been using these sensors, the ones that are a little easier than like EEG caps in the lab, but ones that are very easy to just put on, and in Audium, the soundscape and all the visuals were being driven by two people at a time. And the eye tracking was actually doing a funny thing that is the first time I'd used it, and it would sort of it would jump between different people's eyes. It wasn't staying on one person. And Dave actually mentioned in the first weekend that he actually liked this because it meant that people were trying to figure out whose eyes were on the screen and looking around at each other and saying hi. And that's really kind of my hope, is that people are connected in a space through an artistic experience. So I'm been having a lot of positive feedback from these kinds of things, and this is kind of what I'm most inspired to keep working on, is kind of have more people involved, maybe multiple heartbeats, multiple other sensors, to kind of get people playing, because I also like to learn from what's happening, and I tweak things as I go. So
yeah, collectively there's this shared interest here in exposing ideas with the goal of creating pathways for inspiration and lasting inspiration. So if that's through designing a space that somebody has a meaningful reaction to, that creates a memory, that creates a form of acceptance. I mean, Bevin, hearing about the small Irish museum that has such a lasting impact on you, and this goal between Sarah and Barbara, your work, where once you engage somebody to make a discovery on their own, you've kind of captured their attention and can continue to almost count on them as a collaborator in the process. And there is this, I feel like, a contemporary conversation that's weighing ideas of interpretation versus this concept of kind of curatorial authority, that this is a constant negotiation, right? Because even the word interpretation, which is now what museums call the departments that edit texts and set up spaces, for me makes me a little uncomfortable that the content has been pre-digested essentially, and the content of what you're supposed to take away from it has been curated for you. So I love that that the three of you are challenging that. I think that that's a really important position to be in, and also challenging this modernist notion that that the white cube is the space to experience work that's kind of devoid of anything other than the work itself. So again, pulling back to that multimodal idea and the idea of agency, and giving visitors and interactors a runway to discover things on their own. Another idea that I wanted to talk about was this idea of space owing something. Bevin, that was your concept that you brought up, which I think is really important too. The impact, the long impact of a space itself, and shifting the perspective back towards the people that occupy it, and what is our kind of almost ethical responsibility here when we're creating space. I'm wondering if each of you have another thought on that.
I mean, I can start there. I certainly feel for architects, we are shepherding and stewarding huge amounts of money on behalf of clients and communities. We are stewarding huge amounts of materials that have a massive sustainability, opportunity or not. We have these great challenges and opportunities to dig in deeper, to what is this building going to do and operate in the first 5 years? What is it really going to do in the first 10 years? Who is the audience going to be in the first 20 years? And how do you design for that longevity? And how do you design with, again, that sort of respect for community investment and engagement and conversation within the development of that project? And so I think that, you know, as we look, especially in the museum space or cultural space or public realm work, at this idea of, you know, iconography and highly expensive, beautifully curated buildings that, you know, can sometimes be massively successful and create that delight and everybody's opportunity to experience beauty in our cities and in our towns. I think there's something more that architects need to do. I talk a lot about doctors signing a Hippocratic oath to do no harm to their patients. I see it as designers and architects signing an unwritten social contracts with the communities that we build in, that we have a responsibility to be good stewards, good advocates, good partners, to listen, to understand what longevity looks like in terms of money, in terms of resources, materials, all of those things. So I think there's more that we could be doing. I think as the world changes and our profession is changing, which it is radically, and it will do over the next 5 to 10 years, even more radically than we're probably even thinking about it now, becoming more editors, more curators of our work. I think that we have to embed this sort of front end development of these projects in a more thoughtful, more responsible way.
Absolutely. Sarah, Barbara, do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, I want to dive into what Bevin's saying, but I want to give you guys a chance to also speak to that.
I mean, I totally agree with Bevin, and she's in an amazing position actually to craft these new spaces and to shepherd these spaces. I think that's very wonderful. I think maybe I'll segue slightly. So for me, my ethical responsibility is both to the materials that I'm working with, with cultural heritage, let's say, or performers or intangible cultural heritage, whatever it is, and then to the audience. But then when we talk about the audience, we're also talking about multiple different types of audiences in one space. And this is how do we create systems that respond dynamically to all of these audiences? And we recently created a chatbot, a conversational agent for a museum, and it was trained. It's about an ancient astronomer who built the Neuchâtel Observatory, and we trained it on his handwritten letters, but also on scientific papers that write about his work, history of science papers, and so on. So we've got this great bot. What's amazing about the work is that scientists can go in and have a conversation with this fellow, which is totally satisfying to them. And also any member of the public can ask very naive questions and have respect actually from this ancient astronomer voice in relation to their question and steer them into a conversation. It's really extraordinary to watch. And I often, am creating works that don't satisfy all audiences. But I think this chatbot, conversational agent, it's the visualization, of course, is not his face. We're not into the kind of uncanny valley world. So it's a dynamic knowledge graph visualization of the entire semantic map. And it was really interesting to observe how this can work for multiple audiences. I think it's also because it uses lots of large language models and some generative stuff, that we're also not dealing with uncurated data. It's always curated at one level using these modern tools of AI. It's just a curatorial process, actually. So they're not completely open systems yet. let's say. They're not out of the box, they're in the box.
Mm.
And I think that's important to bear in mind when one thinks about multi-participatory, multi-agent works. Yeah.
Hmm.
Anyway, that's the comment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh, I think I'll just add a little story, which is how I came to developing this stethoscope microphone, which relates to accessibility, and that has then made it easy for audiences to interact with these sorts of instruments. And that I used to play guitar, I still do, but I got a repetitive strain injury in both hands. And when I started at Karma, I was basically not playing music anymore and trying to figure out how I could build interfaces and other instruments that I could play without the use of my hands. And so that led me down into all this biosensor work and has actually, I think, been an important underpinning, which has meant that, you know, anyone can put their finger on a pulse sensor and hear their heartbeat and then have a sort of musical rhythm be generated from that. That's something that I'm kind of working on, as well as these other sweat sensors. So I think one kind of ethical realm is adding kind of the ability for different bodies to be able to participate and experience artworks. And then as training as a scientist, we also, you know, sign with an ethical board before we can do human subject research. So I think that's also always in the back of my mind. You want to leave folks, if not the same, better off than when they came through your experiment. And when, you know, some of the material I want to present is somewhat darker, I think there's kind of an emotional impact I like to go for, but still leave kind of space for people to experience it in relation to their own experience, and have sort of that fun, playful side to kind of balance that out. So, yeah.
Yeah. All of these ideas, kind of balancing responsibility and inspiration, I think are really important. And you don't end up with a cultural entity that has been around for 60 years, like Audium, if you're not paying attention to all of these things. So I think this is kind of an opportunity for us maybe to hear from David about what the next part of our session is going to be, because I think that there's so much there about this kind of civic responsibility in dedicating our efforts ethically, to creating points of engagement and inspiration, and navigating, you know, a shifting cultural landscape adds another challenge to that. So over 60 years, Audium has held true to its original mission. And David, if you could talk to us a little bit about what it is and tee us up for what's coming next.
Sure. Yeah. And so exciting, all these presentations. There's so many interesting synchronicities between us also. Just wanted to thank all of the speakers, Barbara, Bevin, and Audium is a theater of sound. We've been around for 60 years, and I'm going to tell you guys just a brief little one-two punch about what we do, where we've been, and where we're going. Audium is a place for the intersection of sound, space, and deep immersive experience. Building on its history as a theater of sound, Audium is growing into a center for spatial sound art. In the face of a world where attention is being tugged apart, Audium's mission is to amplify perceptual awareness in worlds of sound and space. Yes, what does that mean? Well, briefly touch on these things. Yeah, it's a custom-built environment. It's the first of its kind in terms of a permanent, fixed listening space, possibly in the world. As Barbara mentioned, there's 176 speakers inside the listening space and the entire building. You get a little picture of it there. There's a floating floor and suspended ceiling, and the walls are concave shaped. There's speakers in the ceiling hanging down around you, and the walls, those lampshade looking things, those are all different speakers in the floor. So it's an orchestra of speakers, 176 of them, and we're thinking about live sound control, meaning taking that sound and moving it through those speakers in real time. This is a concept I've been doing for 50 years, literally since the theater was built. The idea of taking the sound every night when there's a performance, the tape was fixed, but the actual movement of the sound was being performed live. Um, yeah, Total Darkness. That's another big issue that we think about the idea of taking the audience and focusing on the listening. There's no screens, and like you're just mentioning, Joseph, we're doing this for 60 years, and the experience is almost more important now than ever before with all our phones and gadgets and stuff that are taking our attention and tugging in different directions. So here you're forced to go inward and what happens when you're in the dark and there's, how are you feeling? What emotions, dreams, memories, fantasies come up for you when you have nothing else to do but go inside yourself? Uh, Boom. One thing that also wanted to mention is that this is an environment, meaning that it's not just one space, but a series of spaces that kind of bring you into the artist world. There's a lobby with six projectors and six channels of audio, rotating visual exhibits. So the kind of light, projection, and sound are all fully moldable, shapeable, and composable. Um, the labyrinth, there's a sound labyrinth that kind of you can see in the top left corner photo. There is a kind of portal looking thing. You kind of walk through that, and there is a twisting, winding hallway that takes you into the main performance space, 36 speakers in that sound labyrinth, and then you get into the actual space. So it's kind of a series of spaces, and as the audience kind of goes from one space to the next, the idea is you're kind of prepping them with your sound work. And so artists that come in are already kind of themes of the night are evolving within the lobby and in the sound labyrinth and then into the space, taking you more and more inward inside the work. Yes, there's a video here. We're not going to watch it. There's not enough time, but check out Picasso of Sound to talk about Stan Schaff, co-founder of Audium. He happens to be my dad. It's the old family sound theater. Whoops. So yeah, Audium was founded by Stan Schaff and Doug McEachern, originally with these ideas in the late 50s, early 60s, collaborating with Anna Halpern's dance troupe and as well as the San Francisco Tape Music Center. Was a trumpet player. He wanted to move his sound the way that Anna and her dancers were moving their bodies. And so he talked to Doug and he said, "Could you rig up a couple speakers with the dancers so we could move our sound around them?" And boom, it turned into four speakers and then eight and then 16 and kept growing. And they're like, we gotta get a permanent space for this. It feels like we need to be able to control things a bit more than acoustically and visually as well. So the first theater, when they opened in 1967, they're already thinking about darkness. They had 44 speakers and eventually 60. Um, and this theater was in the Richmond district and lasted for a few years until 1970. 1975, we opened up at the theater we're at now. Regular shows, student workshops, seminars. And I'm just going to fast forward through because like we got a lot of history to get through here. 50 years happens, boom, Dad's in there every night, every Friday, Saturday, moving the sound live for audiences and perfecting this idea of like sound and performance of sound movement, which Barbara's going to demonstrate for you guys in a few minutes. Right. I came along about 2016. I was like, hey, Dad, there's all these other folks that are working in this medium. Whereas when you started, it was kind of a new thing. Now there's all kinds of folks doing sound art and sound design. Can we open the space up to them? And so there was a period of modernization and digitization, and that takes us to where we are now, a new era. After 60 years and over 4,900 performances, a new chapter is unfolding. Basically, this one-man project, I'm foreseeing kind of like a community hub, and we currently have a sound residency program. We're bringing artists every year. Barbara's one of those. Public workshops and school programs, bringing in students to learn about this medium and also get to perform their own works in the space. So I kind of see the space itself as a canvas for folks to create and stretch the boundaries of sound and space and creativity. Um, that said, we're going to be listening to Barbara, and she's going to be presenting a bit of her work that she composed for Audium a few months ago. Um, I just want to do a quick disclaimer, which is that this, as you can see and maybe hear a little bit from what I'm talking about, what you're about to hear is not the same experience as going to Audium and experiencing the thing. I just want to say that up front because when you're listening in your headphones, you're getting sound just coming into your ears, and that's nice. But when you're in a space with a bunch of speakers, you're feeling the sound against your body from your toes to your top of your head. So it's a different experience. And when you're in the dark, that's another, like I said, another thing too. So I'd encourage you, first of all, important, get your headphones because this is a 360 mic, and the only way you're going to be able to hear or understand, your brain's going to be able to understand the 360 nature of things. Have your headphones on while things are going on because it's actually recording in 360. And the other thing is try to find a space where you can be kind of like quiet and not disturbed. I think that helps. Maybe close your eyes, get the blindfolds, go lie in bed, don't go to sleep. And I'll pass it
David?
to
Yeah,
Jason from there.
David, before we pass it over to Jason, I just want to make a little bit of space just in case anybody has any questions for Sarah and Bevin and Barbara before we shift into Barbara's performance. We have a couple minutes, but then I want to make sure that as we move back into this space, we've gone through people's questions and interests. But if not, a huge thanks to Sarah, your presentation, Bevin, your presentation, Barbara, your presentation, David, your presentation in history of Audium, and for hosting us today, and to Swissnex again for putting all this together, and to pass it over to Jason, who's been the stalwart facilitator here, bringing us into these spaces, founder of Earprint Studios, and really the kind of motivator behind this entire set of panel discussions. I see Jason is sitting there in the dark in Audium, ready to take us through.
Yeah, and I want to make sure you can hear me. I'm in the space, and we're one thing I wanted to emphasize is, the space is beautiful and really interestingly designed, but what we want to actually feature is that it's dark, that we're not showing you the space. We're actually inviting you to listen. And if you can see this picture of me over to the left, this side, that's Barbara back there. So go ahead and wave. You can see. So she's back behind me in what's like this little cockpit, you might call it. I mean, it's like the she's basically in the control center performing from that space. So she's over there. And if you look to this side, as I'm pointing here, maybe I can get a little bit of light on it. That thing is the microphone. So I'm sitting next to the microphone, and you're hearing me, hopefully with a little bit of distinguishing binaural characteristic of left and right. And that's just this is kind of where the sound's coming from. We have speakers all over. We have central speakers above and below. And instead of just talking about it, I'll hand it over to Barbara. The only thing I wanted to mention is that one of the things that we've been talking about for this whole time, it started with listening. It was really like we want to focus on listening, and listening as the art of not just hearing, but it involves interpreting, it involves absorbing, it involves meaning and culture. And the word sonostalgia is really about memory and sound. How these sounds, Sarah, you talked about like the cultural significance and the meaning of it. But what this space offers, and what I think you're talking about too with these other spaces, is co-listening. And the Sound Museum project is really about creating a co-listening space. So when you're thinking about experiencing it online, we're all co-listening. as a webinar. When you come to the audience, you see the chairs. Everybody's in here together, so you feel this sense of we're shared listening, and that's really key to what we're talking about from a sound perspective. So I just want to make sure you're kind of ready for that experience. And one of the best features about Audium is it goes pitch black. So I'm going to disappear. I'm going to get away from the mic because you can hear me in the background rustling. You don't want to hear that. So I'm going to hand it over to Barbara and kind of disappear and take it away. It may get really dark, which is okay. And we recommend that you close your eyes. Maybe, Barbara, you can give us a little bit of... We thought about how to make sure you guys have the right Zoom settings. So I'll leave it to you, Barbara, to take it from here. And thank you so much, everybody. It's just been such a pleasure. Great. Okay.
Yeah, hi again, everyone. I'm now speaking through the space, so hopefully you can hear me. First off, I want to have us all set up our sound settings for hopefully the best experience. So I'm going to share my screen and just want to mention that if you go up to the top bar in Zoom, you click on Zoom Workplace and then go down to Settings, you'll be able to open the audio section. And if you scroll down a bit, you'll get to this part called microphone modes. And what you want to do is make sure you have original sound for musicians on and high fidelity music mode on, but you don't want echo cancellation because I'm creating lots of reverberation that we want to keep, and you want to have stereo audio. So I'll give that a moment, and if there's any questions, please put those in the chat. Okay, so I don't see any questions. Hopefully you have that going, and real briefly, I'll just mention that the live performance, I'm going to play the first 3 sections of the piece, just short little excerpts of a couple minutes, but it starts out with the breath as a way to get everyone in the audience to kind of settle in and focus on the sound and their bodies. And actually I'll just share one more slide, is that you're going to hear a sound that bounces around a channel that controls 36 speakers that are all hanging in a spiral above you and around the walls. And this is one of the most fun things that I got to make here, is a way to bounce the text that I'm speaking randomly through this speaker channel. And so hopefully you'll get a sense of that bouncing around you. And it will be not super loud. There's a really loud section later, so this you may want to turn your sound up a tiny bit. But make sure you have headphones, and I'm going to turn off the lights. owns your slop? Did you consent to the IV drip drop, handy slot machine, wet lucid dreams? Never asleep. Will your screams wake me up? I'm still asleep, but never sleeping. Do you accept these terms? Life imprisonment of endless entertainment, wake and bake, potato shake. What's real when the nightmares bleed into day, when the daymares are fake? Instead of give and take, it's take, take, take. I went to the ocean to wash off the digital screens, flakes of flesh, scattered like sunbeams.
All right, so that was the first section. The next one, as I say in the poem, I'm going to go to the ocean, features a multi-channel recording of the ocean not too far away in Half Moon Bay. And that's placed around the room and then slowly blurred, as well as some guitar. And this is mostly just a song because I like to write songs too. just to end, normally these sections are much longer, so it's hard to cut them short. But I'll just play one more section that features the stethoscope microphone, and I'll leave the light on this time so that you can see it. So what's happening is I'm capturing the envelope of my heart rate and then using that to drive a synthesizer drone to change the amplitude of ocean waves and to trigger a drum that is actually a recording of a heartbeat and a drum. listening so much. I hope that came through. And yeah, let me know if you have, I think there's a question, but yeah, thank you for the opportunity to perform today.
Thank you so much, Barbara.
Can I just comment something too? As being in the space, I was sitting on the floor, and the vibration itself was astounding. I said this last time too because I was able to participate in the space at this CCRMA where you're getting a haptic immersion in the audio frequencies, and Barbara's really playing with some very low end experiences and the feeling of like spatial floating, like the voice floats. Anyway, it's quite an experience. Just wanted to share that.
Yeah, there was a lot of sound in the floors, like the ocean was coming out of the floors, and then this like low 50 hertz drone that I just can't get enough of. So it sounds awesome in here.
Huge thanks to everybody. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you to Jason. Thank you to David. Thanks to everybody who's joined today, and huge thanks to Sarah and Bevin as well. I think that might kind of wrap us up. A big thank you, and hope that you all have a chance to visit Audio in person.
Thank you so much, Joseph, for the amazing moderation and everything. Great. Have a wonderful day. Have a great evening, a good morning, rest of the morning.